by quite a few people online as being a patent for a new CPU component, which is going to be an external device which is going to plug into their PS3 to increase the specification and the processing power of the Sony's PlayStation 3. Now, the reason why I bring this up, really, an upgrade pack isn't that newsworthy. We saw it with Nintendo with the DSP chip, and we've seen it all in the past. But recently I've been reporting a lot about the Kinect, the Microsoft movement sensor hardware, and I argued at the time that this piece of hardware that Microsoft released was going to see their Xbox 360 through for the next 5 years. It was my opinion that Microsoft was going to use it to drag out the life of the 360 in order to get a profit out of it, and Kinect was one of the ways we're going to do that. And it seems very interesting that Sony are taking this step with this patent filing, if it is correct, and the rumours are true, to upgrade their existing system, the console system, and maybe not go for a PS4 release. It would certainly make a lot of sense. It would certainly put the PS3 on a higher spec footing than the Xbox 360. And as we move down the years, if Kinect is dragging the life out of the 360, when gamers are going to start demanding more and more advanced games and more advanced graphical features, maybe the 360 will start to fizzle out purely because it won't be able to keep up with the demands of the consumer or the end user. So that was basically what I wanted to mention about that. I've written an article on it on my site. That'll be linked in the show notes. So you can read about that there, and also a link to the patent itself, which, to be fair, after the summary at the beginning, doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's quite vague, and it could be interpreted 5 or 6 different ways. So if you're interested, have a look at it, and we'll move back on to you, Roy or Gordon, whoever's next with something they want to bring up.
Well, quick comment on that, on the console thing. It's having the bigger, more advanced console isn't necessarily just. It's only one part of the process. That's one of the reasons why Nintendo didn't go into the contest with Sony and Microsoft, was that they saw it as the cost of the games. Actual producing the games. I mean, if you've got an Xbox 360 or if you've got a PS3, you want, because your console is capable of doing high definition, really fast frame rates and full on cinematic. You're living a movie. You're playing a movie essentially. These games take an awful lot of time and a lot of manpower and a lot of money to produce. So the more advanced the actual hardware is, the more that the gamers demand, the more that it costs them to make. I mean, Gran Turismo 5 took several years to actually make, to get to that kind of level. So the hardware is only one part of the process.
Well, you need some Humble games as well. Have any of you played the Humble Bundle? It's called.
Not yet, no. But I hear it's doing quite well. I think it's sold over $1 million. It's exceeded $1 million now, hasn't it?
Well over. I think it was about 5 days ago or 4 days ago, and now it passed 1.8, which is important because it's 1.75. One of the companies whose game was, I can't remember the name of the game, they said if it passes 1.75, they will open source the game.
Yeah.
They'll make it free software, which they have. Now they just try to ask the community or people who bought the game which license to choose. But it's good news because it shows you first of all that you'd make some good money out of the bundle, which they expanded afterwards. So I think every developer gets something like $250,000. For a group of people who work on a game which possibly takes a year to make for a very small team of people, that's like a wage. And that's just by asking people to kind of donate based on free download. And it shows you a sort of a business model which tends to work, which appears to work in practice. And even if they open source the game or make it free software, prefer to say, it doesn't affect their business model because they don't rely on the software having to be licensed or limit the distribution of the software.
What I found interesting with the Humble Indie Bundle 2, and I expect the first one as well, I was reading a lot of the sites that sort of concentrate on the peer-to-peer technologies and file sharing, and it appears that people that were sharing this bundle without having a donate system, obviously somebody's bought or donated to the Humble Indie Bundle and just uploaded it to a BitTorrent tracker. Apparently, all the users that normally would have quite a flagrant disregard to copyright issues in general have been obviously hammering these people that have been putting up on the trackers, saying that's not fair. You should get it off. It needs to, you need to donate money to the manufacturers or the producers of this software. And I think it does, like you say, Roy, it highlights a new and emerging business model, one that I think a lot of companies have been either too ignorant or too blinkered to realise exists. And I mean, the proof of the pudding is showing now, because I think it's made quite a decent sum of money for a system which effectively works on people's charity and goodwill. So I think it's a positive step for the future. And how maybe.
Sorry, yeah.
So I was just going to say, I was just getting by saying I think it's a positive step for the future, and maybe this is a preview of what's to come. 5-6 years time, all software will be sold like this. Who knows?
It's probably sort of agreed among the three of us and some of the listeners that the notion of distribution and payment doesn't exactly work the way that the newspapers want us to believe, or those so-called studies from BSA and IDC try to have us perceive the situation. And it's interesting because I had a conversation for about an hour with a friend of mine, and as I was trying to explain to him the situation, you see how he's been put in a position where he is a person who doesn't read the same sites as we do, or gets exposed to the same type of situation or picture of the scene. He thinks that basically you have to pursue the RM and you have to try and ensure that people's hard drives are going to keep track of people's files and try to decide what's copyright and what's not copyright. And then as you try to pose the issues and why it would never work and why they've been trying it for at least 10 years now, it failed. They still fail to perceive the notion that people who usually share the files and don't pay for it would never in the first place actually get the files or pay for them if they had to acquire them, legitimately. So one of the things that happens with books, with electronic books at least, people who put these things on so-called, pirate sites, as they call them, will never have actually bought the book in the first place. So this is just free publicity to people who would never have paid for the book anyway. You increase your audience, you have the chance of a person sharing an experience with friends about the book he read, and maybe there will be a sale. And one of the things that happened with O'Reilly, and that's important, is they show you how, once they released a book, when they made a download available and more people downloaded the book, the actual sales, the actual paid sales increased as they made the book available for free on the internet. And that's just an interesting anecdote, because and I think they did some statistics on that, and they found this is just basically the rule of how things work for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly agree to an extent, but I also think that there's a group of people who actively seek out material which they have no intention of paying for, which they know exactly what they're downloading, with the sole intention of receiving something for nothing. Now, I don't want to discuss the rights and wrongs of that, because I think everybody has a view of that. But what I mean is, like, for example, if you type into Google Python tutorial, chances are you're probably going to find a torrent which is going to contain maybe not. But what I'm trying to put out here is that yes, there's a lot of people that get decent publicity from a ebook that goes up onto a tracker, and there might be some people that have a look at the first chapter and say, yeah, I want a copy of that, and go out to the shops and buy a copy, and it's all free publicity. But I do believe that we overlook a group, and I don't know how big this group is. It could be very large, it could be very small, but there is a group of people who actively go out for the sole purpose of getting something for nothing. They have no intention of buying the stuff. They want the material, they know what material they're after, but they have no intention of buying it, and no intention of reading it and saying, oh yeah, that's worth the money, I'll go out and buy it. I think for me personally, I believe if anybody thinks otherwise, it's silly, but in my opinion.
If you don't offer, these people, if you don't offer them something for free, they will find a person who will do that. And they usually will be a person. I give lots of my stuff free, even things that I worked a lot on. My code is always free software. All the code I ever write is free software, and to make sure with my employers I can do that. But one of the things, since we mentioned TechDirt before, the person writes the site, he explains very nicely and puts some graphs to explain that the convergence of the market is around $0. So as the market gets more saturated, you will have to compete with $0. Even if you write a very good Python tutorial and you try to charge for a book, there will be a person sometime will produce an equally good book, which will be free. And then you